My name is Edgar Mannheimer, and this is Kalam, a podcast about the Middle East. Hello and welcome to a special live edition of Kalam Podcast. I'm your host, Edgar Mannheimer. Theater has been central to the formation of Palestinian national consciousness for almost a century. Troupes such as al-Betlehem and al-Hakawati have been instrumental both in articulating a language and an imagery of identification and resistance, as well as spreading the message of the Palestinian plight to the world. One of the foremost theater troupes active today is al-Harah from Bethlehem. Earlier this year, the troupe visited Sweden's Tribunalen theater, touring their play Meramieh, meaning sage, a powerful staging of a number of personal testimonies connected to al-Nakba, when in 1948, 750,000 Palestinians were displaced. After the troupe's performance on April the 10th of this year, Kalam podcast Samuel Carlshamre had the honor of recording an episode with the director and one of the actors of al-Harah live on stage. The conversation ranged from the conditions of theater under occupation and genocide, the educational and artistic challenges confronting Palestinian art today, to Palestinian identity as a source of pride and inspiration, as well as a cage and a constraint on artistic expression. If you want to know more about Palestinian theater, we have, as mentioned in the episode, a podcast recorded with Iman Aoun of the Ashtar Theater in Ramallah on the West Bank in occupied Palestine. That was recorded in the summer of 2024, and it's out on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. So check that out if you want to know more about Palestinian theater. For now, here's our special live edition of Kalam podcast recorded in April of this year with al-Harah Theater Troupe.
So, hello and welcome to this live podcast episode with Kalam Podcast, a podcast produced by me, Samuel Carlshamre, Edgar Mannheimer, and Nouraddin Fares, who sadly couldn't be with us today. They are in Italy for some reason. I welcome, first of all, on stage with me, Marina and Nicola. Would you mind introducing yourselves?
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here with us tonight. My name is Nicola Zreineh. I come from a town called Beit Jala from Bethlehem area. I was a co-founder of al-Harah Theater together with Marina and others in 2005. So we're celebrating our 20th anniversary here in Sweden. Thank you. Yes, I work as an actor, drama trainer, and a little in the management, helping Marina sometimes, but not much. She's the producer, the manager. She will introduce herself.
My name is Marina Barham, and I'm one also of the co-founders of al-Harah Theater, and I'm the general director of the theater. And we're very, very happy to be here today, and especially in Tribunalen. We've done a tour all over Sweden, but we're very happy to be here tonight at Tribunalen and have to meet you here.
Thank you so much. I would like to start out by asking you, Marina, to introduce the play that we have just seen. You come from al-Harah Theater in Beit Jala, as you mentioned, and you've been here tonight showing a play called... what is it called? Meramieh.
Meramieh. Yes.
Would you mind telling us something about the play, both for the audience listening here at Tribunalen and for those at home who haven't been able to see the play?
Of course. Well, Meramieh is a plant. It's in Swedish salvia and in English sage. And Meramieh is a very important plant for Palestinians. In our culture, we use it for tea, we use it with food. It has a beautiful smell. Sometimes we also burn it to give a smell in the house. And it leaves a lot of memories when you smell Meramieh. And you have seen it in the play, you have seen it in different scenes with the actors. And it's like olives, like olive oil, like za'atar, which we use a lot in our culture in Palestine. And the play was based on testimonies from Palestinians who were forced to leave in 1948. A research center called al-Ruwat Center, headed by Dr. Fayha Abdel Hadi, collected these testimonies after interviewing 115 Palestinians spread in different countries in the world. And she put the stories of 6 Palestinians in a book called Living Memories. And the 6 characters that the play spoke about are these 6 people who 5 of them passed away. We only have 1 left in Chile, which is Ferial. And the director of the play, Mirna Sakhle, who couldn't be with us here today, she also was the dramaturge. She decided to use the exact testimonies, the exact words, the exact sentences of these people to be true, to be honest to their life stories, and put them together in the play that you saw with Meramieh. The pictures that you saw are the real pictures of those characters and those Palestinians. Some of them were in Chile, in Lebanon, in Jordan, in Nazareth, in different countries, like all the Palestinians who are now spread in the world everywhere. And it is telling the stories of thousands of Palestinians who were forced to leave in 1948, who were forced to leave in 1967, who were forced to leave also now, today, in Gaza, in the West Bank, in different locations. And that's why this play, we chose to produce it as al-Harah Theatre.
Going back to the question of al-Harah Theatre as an institution or as a theatre company, you said you're celebrating your 20th birthday or anniversary today, or this year. Would you mind telling us a bit more about what your idea is behind this theatre company, and why you're doing theatre, basically? What is your cause and your
this is a very big question. Why we do theatre? We do theatre first because it's important to our people. It's important to Palestinians. First we do theatre to try to create positive change in our own community through our different programs that we work at al-Harah. We have a children program, a women program that we work with people with disability, and we organize 2 festivals that you will see in the film. One is the Palestine International Children Theatre Festival, and the Bethlehem site-specific festival. We do theater because it's important to continue telling our story, to continue reminding the people of how we live, how our grandparents lived, and we're still living till now. Because people, especially in the West, they don't know about the daily details and sufferings that Palestinians go through every single day. A child to go to his school and come back safely, a teacher, a doctor, us traveling around the Palestinian cities, if possible, because of the checkpoints that make our travels and lives miserable every single day. So we think it is important to carry our stories to our people and to the people in the world.
I think in Palestine, theater and performing arts is not entertainment. It's vital. It's crucial to do it for the children, for the women, for inclusion of people with disability, and to make life, at least for a short period of time, better. To give children a safe space where they can feel safe enough to talk about how they feel, and also to try and forget that they are under occupation, and also be able to hide their fear, which is everywhere. Fear is something that we live with. Fear for people we love, fear, as Nicola said, fear for everyone doing daily things. And it changes the life of people who do it and people who watch it in a tremendous way. And that's why it's important to continue.
Thank you. Talking about the everyday life of Palestinians, we've seen, of course, some, let's say, a historical perspective on that in this play. But would you mind talking a little bit about the situation where you come from in Beit Jala and more generally in the West Bank and Gaza at the perhaps at the moment? How has it been developing over the last years?
Beit Jala is located like 5 minutes away from Bethlehem, and we are located in the West Bank. So the West Bank is under the Palestinian Authority, of course. And we are supposed to be under a rule that the Israeli military or occupation is not allowed to enter those areas. But on daily basis, they enter the areas, they arrest people, they shoot, they block entrances to the Bethlehem area. They try to isolate us from other cities. So from the beginning of the genocide on Gaza, all of the entrances to the different districts have been closed. So it's very difficult to go from Bethlehem, for example, to Ramallah, to Jenin, to Tulkarem. Of course, the Bethlehem area has not been attacked as hard as Jenin and Tulkarem and Nur Shams and Nablus, because Bethlehem is a tourist city, and they try all the time to sort of show that Bethlehem is okay, because they don't want to affect the tourism industry that they have. But at the same time, they continue to arrest people. Recently, in the Hesha refugee camp, a cultural center called Ibda' Cultural Center, they closed it for 6 months. They arrested the leader for almost a year. They arrested his son. They arrested a member of the board, like they did with the Freedom Theater, with other artists from different places. So it is not easy to go out, and that's why we have been, for the last year and a half, almost stuck in the Bethlehem area. We couldn't even reach children in other places. We tried to concentrate on schools in the Bethlehem area because it's not safe to go out and it's not safe to go through checkpoints, although we would love to go to other places easily. So mobility is shrinking and it's concentrated. Freedom of expression on social media is also very risky, and it's problematic. And people could be arrested at checkpoint anytime. We have a colleague who has a hearing disability, and 2 months ago she went to Ramallah for a meeting. On the way back, they stopped her at the main checkpoint between the south and the north, called the Container, and the female soldier asked them for their identity card. And Nada, this girl with the hearing disability, usually reacts with a smile because she can't really express herself very well. So the female soldier thought that she's laughing at her, so she grabbed her, took her together with 2 other girls into a separate room, and they started punching them on the stomach. And they were completely traumatized, and they went back home after crying all the way. And she had to stay in bed for almost a week because of pain. And she swore she will not go back to Ramallah because she's scared to do this. And this is something that happens every single day.
Yeah. You want to add something?
What was the question?
No, it was the question
daily
was
life.
how does daily life how is daily life in Palestine and
Well,
the West
as
Bank?
Marina said, it changed tremendously يعني during the last almost 2 years now since the genocide. All our plans changed. On the 13th of October 2023, we were supposed to have our 5th edition of the Palestine International Children Theatre Festival. And of course, a week before, on the 7th, happened what happened. And we had 8 international companies coming from all over the world. And we had to cancel flights, all the arrangements. And for the first few weeks, we couldn't decide what our role should be as artists, as people working in theater, because we're not therapists. We don't have drama therapists in Palestine or music therapists or any performing arts therapists. But we started having calls from schools asking us to come and interfere and do something with the children because okay, the children of Bethlehem are not facing directly the war and the genocide, but they watch it on TV, they hear it, the parents 24 hours, the news is on every single house. So we created a package from different activities that we gave for schools in Bethlehem area. We worked with the children through drama, through puppet making, storytelling, recycling, to try and give them at least 2 hours of their day to express themselves during these puppets that they made through the drama exercises. We did hundreds of sessions in different schools in Bethlehem area. As Marina said, we couldn't go out of Bethlehem area because reaching is not easy. Till now, we didn't do any live performances, public performances. We do for special groups, for women, for people with disability, for children, and hopefully that this will end soon and we will all come back to the life before the genocide, although it wasn't also normal. And this is, every time we have difficulties, we say, let's go back to what was before, although it wasn't normal and it was also difficult. The checkpoints are there, the invasions of the cities is there. We're trying to live as human beings as we can. And the Palestinians have a great ability to adapt. You come to Bethlehem and or to Ramallah or to any city, and sometimes you're surprised that the restaurants are working and shopping is working, and so people are trying. Not easy, but this, in my opinion, doing theater and doing performing arts and showing the world that we have culture, we have people who are trying to do something, this is more powerful than keep crying and keep showing only the suffering, because we are people who want to live, as simply as that.
Yeah. Well, as you just said, Palestinians have been living in what can at best be termed a state of exception since 1948, or at least and before perhaps, yes, of course. So I wanted to actually take the opportunity to zoom out a little bit from this kind of the focus on the situation right now and ask you, we on an earlier episode of Kalam, we had Iman Aoun, whom I'm sure you both know, but perhaps the audience doesn't. Famous or legendary even theater producer and actress. She has been working since the 80s at least with what's now I think the National Theater, al-Hakawati,
Ashtar
and now
Theater
al-Ashtar, yeah.
in Ramallah.
So two different very famous theater companies. And she talked on a very interesting episode, which I recommend everyone listen to. She talked about how Palestinian theater is both very universal in its scope and kind of it speaks to very, let's say, global or universal human emotions and experiences. But also she talked about Palestinian theater being a very peculiar kind of theater or having some very specific characteristics. She spoke specifically about Palestinian theater always being a theater of resistance and a very symbolic or symbolist theater. I would perhaps, if this touches in any way on how you think about doing theater, would you mind expanding on that a little bit?
Well, I agree with Iman, especially performances who are directed to adults. Usually, as a Palestinian theater company, especially when we travel outside of Palestine and perform, we're always expected to talk about Palestine in a way or another. Directly as this documentary performance, or indirectly, symbolically, as Iman said. But working with children is a different story. We always try not to talk politics. We try always to have musicals, colorful, international. We did lots of Scandinavian stories for children performances. We did The Little Match Girl. We did The Brothers Lionheart. I'm sure you all know. We did The Trolley, The Changeling.
Oh, yes.
So we try to create something that emphasizes the children to think and to enjoy their lives. But yes, and to tell you the truth, we're tired again as artists. We don't want to continue only talking about Palestine and the Palestinian issue. It is our role nowadays, but we want to reach a point that, inshallah, we will start doing arts for the sake of arts one day.
Yes, wouldn't it be fantastic if a Palestinian theater company came to Sweden and put up a play about something entirely different? About the situation in France?
We did.
You have tour with that, kind of?
What?
Oh, tell me.
Well, the story of the artist always saying, oh, we're fed up, we don't want to do something about Palestine. We had an Italian director called Pietro Floridia, who wanted to do something with us using Mahmoud Darwish poetry. And of course, the artist said, no, we want to have something international. We want something classical. So he chose the Metamorphoses for Frank Kafka. And the moment the Italian director arrived, he uses exactly the same text, the same names, everything. The moment he had the set on the stage, it was a cube where Gregor was in that cube. Immediately when the audience saw this play, they started saying, this is Gaza. These are the people of Gaza in the cube. And that's why they're transforming. So even if you try to do something that is international, that doesn't mention the word Palestine or have anything to do with Palestine, immediately, because you are a Palestinian company, immediately people start looking at it from their way of what they expect about Palestine. But at the same time, I feel that as a theater, we have a responsibility towards our audiences in Palestine, but we also have a big responsibility, which sometimes feel as a burden to artists or to directors, where we feel that we have to come to different countries with our life stories. Yesterday, I was sitting with the famous director here in Sweden, Dritro from Rikstheater, and I was surprised to hear that he doesn't like it when directors from Palestine do theater for the European audience without thinking of the Palestinian audience, and he doesn't like to see something that is not related somehow to Palestine. He prefers to see the reality of Palestine as a Palestinian theater, and I personally agree with this. I think we have a responsibility as a theater to audiences like you, audiences in other countries, to bring something about Palestine, because a lot of you don't have this opportunity. It's an opportunity, I think. And also not only for Swedish citizens or Europeans, I think it's very important for people who come from the Arab background, from Palestinians who came to Sweden 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They completely are isolated from theater because they don't see anything to do with their story, with their context on stage. And that's why they don't go. It's a way to build your audience as a theater to do something that represents them, that talks about them, because they're also Swedish citizens. So it's very important to tell real stories on stage about people, about humans, about what they have been going through, about their history, and about the future.
Thank you. To stay for a little while longer on the topic of Palestinian theater, or if there's something specific to Palestinian theater, I would want to ask. As I was preparing for this conversation, I was reading or rereading Yusuf Idris, al-Farafir, famous play or a famous Egyptian playwright and writer in general, author, where he writes about Egyptian theater and what would he mean for a theater to be Egyptian. And he discusses this at length in a very interesting discussion where he talks about kind of it being a fusion of something that arrives in modern times in terms of, let's call it institutional theater, or sometimes like Italian theater or something, in terms of something that comes from the West, often arrives with missionary schools, etc. But on the other hand, he talks about Egyptian theater being as old as Egypt, basically. He talks about, let's say, indigenous or local traditions, the al-Hawati tradition of storytelling, also the shadow theater traditions, etc. If we stick with this kind of question of the aesthetics of a Palestinian theater or a way of approaching it, I think it was very interesting what you said towards the end there, where you might, let's say, do theater in a way that talks or speaks to a different kind of audience. Do you think there is something specific about kind of how you think about theater or how you do theater that distinguishes it perhaps from, let's say, speak very broadly, a Western kind of perspective? Or do you think that is just a loaded question?
Well, I think that the Palestinian theater, we always try to do contemporary issues. We are concentrated on the humans, the community, and what inspires us from the community. And it doesn't mean that we only do community theater. It means that we get the inspiration from these communities, and we try and put something on stage that can provoke the local community, and it can provoke also the international community. And I think the level of the Palestinian theater and the Palestinian theaters in general is quite modern, and it's quite contemporary compared to other Arab countries, including Egypt. I mean, in Egypt, there are lots of different kinds of theaters. There is the institutional that could be governmental. It could be also supported by the Ministry of Culture. But there is also a lot of alternative groups that are trying to do new productions, new ideas. But in Palestine, we feel that we have to get this from our own surroundings, from inspirations from maybe books that we read from Palestine, stories that we hear. At the moment, we are working, and we have been thinking about this production for 3 years. It is the story of a painting called Jamal al-Mahamil, which is like the carrier of the burdens. And it is a painting by a very well-known Palestinian painter called Sleiman Mansour. It's a painting that was done in 1980s. He painted it to send it to an exhibition in London. And this painting is an old man carrying Jerusalem on his back. I'm sure many of you have seen it. It's in many, many Palestinian houses. It's the first painting I've seen in my grandfather's house when I was little. This painting disappeared when it went to London. Then he repainted it again, the exact painting, and he sent it to Dubai for another exhibition, and it was lost. A few years ago, an artist called Khalid Hourani wrote a book about the idea of the loss of this painting. And it really attracted us as a theater because it was at a time when Trump decided to move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. So we felt that the loss of this painting is like the loss of Jerusalem, the loss of Palestine. It is the heavy burden that Palestinians keep carrying on their shoulders, whether they've been 30 years in Sweden or in the UK, they still carry this load on their shoulders as Palestinian, even after maybe the fourth generation. You know, I've met so many Palestinians during this tour, and all of them have this heavy, heavy responsibility towards Palestine. So we're going to produce this play hopefully in July and August, and we have been thinking about it, and we're going to make it with this director. His name is Bashar Morqos from Haifa. He's a Palestinian. He's a very good director. So already this play will be performed in Holland in 10 different theaters without even seeing the performance. It's incredible because we have this co-producer in Holland that is helping with this. So a lot of times the ideas come from what is happening in Palestine. It might be a different kind of story or theme. We do community theater. We do a lot of work with other women organizations, human rights organizations about gender violence, about economic rights of women, about encouraging women to take part in the student unions at universities. But we also do things that we feel are very important to perform in Palestine first, and then take internationally. I don't know if Nicola has...
Just a simple
you recall the question?
A simple sentence to add to Marina. Theater and arts should be international. It shouldn't be related to a country or to a society. Okay, the stories come from that community. And in this tour in particular, we had audiences in different cities in Denmark and in Sweden who are Ukrainian or Polish or come from different nationalities, and they don't speak Swedish and they don't speak Arabic. And we always had the comment after the show that we didn't need to understand what you're saying exactly, because the feelings, the atmosphere, the whole thing, they felt it. They were able to understand it. So that's the power of theater.
Thank you. We just want to ask one last question before we leave the floor to first this short brief movie and then questions from the audience. You mentioned when we were talking before the play, Marina, that these kind of international tours, of course, mean something very special to you, and that and specifically you have a good, strong connection with Sweden. Would you mind talking a little bit about just the kind of the meaning and the importance of these international tours that you do?
Well, first, we have a very long history as a theater with Sweden. And it started a long time ago, I think 1998. It started with two teachers at the Dramatic Institute, Nini and Buel, who started a program to support performing arts in the MENA region, in Middle East and North Africa. And then we were one of those people, one of those theaters that they supported and they encouraged. And the first production we did before we got registered was with Baka Theater in Gothenburg. We did a play called Longing to the Sea, Yalla al-Bahar. Until today, this play is, the songs of the play are repeated by a lot of people. And we had three Swedish actors, and we had two Palestinian actors, and the director was Palestinian. And we toured with it in Sweden and also in Palestine, in Jordan, in Egypt. Then we did a lot of cooperation with Rikstheater, trying to help with in introducing new audiences by going and speaking at different communities, Palestinian, Lebanese, Iraqi communities in Sweden, to encourage young people to study theater and performing arts, to also come to see theater, to be part of the performing arts in Sweden, because they're not at the moment. We also collaborated with Unga Clara, and we have Gustav here 2 years ago, where they came to Palestine and they gave workshops, and it was to develop young emerging directors in Palestine. We did co-production with Egen Blink's Theater in Umeå. And we've had this long-standing relationship with Sweden until 2019. In 2019, the EU Parliament decided to add a political condition on their funding to Palestinian civil society, which they consider 7 Palestinian political parties as terrorists. So for us, we had a project through the Palestinian Performing Arts Network that was for 4 years. It was approved by the EU, and the EU and CEDA were the main funders for performing arts sector in Palestine. And they sent us the contract, and we found out that they have this new political condition. And for us, we cannot accept that they incriminate our people. They wanted us to do vetting on our beneficiaries. Thank you. Thank you. They wanted us to check the artists we work with, and we refused. So we refused the fund. Then CEDA added this condition. We negotiated with them for a whole year in 2020 over Zoom. And we tried to explain to them that as people under occupation, we have a right to have Palestinian political parties representing us, that we cannot incriminate people who have any relations with Palestinian political parties. We all have members in our families who have been imprisoned, who have been killed, who have been injured, and we cannot accept something like this. So we lost the funding also from CEDA because we decided not to accept this condition. Then the French started, the Germans started, and then when the genocide started, we as a cultural sector, as more than 70 Palestinian cultural organizations, we also decided to stop accepting money from the UK, from the United States, which we didn't ever have money from them, from Germany, from Italy, and from France, because they were sending weapons to kill our children in Gaza. Oh. So, thank you. So we started to think outside the box. We started to think, how can we continue? And we can only continue with you, with theaters in Sweden doing co-productions, doing cooperation with us, with artists taking responsibility for what is happening, not only for the environment, but for human beings in Palestine, like Ukraine, like Yemen, like Syria. They need people to be treated equally, not to have a certain human rights apply to certain people, but to all people. Sweden was funding the performing arts sector not under culture program, but under human rights and freedom of expression. And they taught us human rights and freedom of expression. And today, we are appalled, we are shocked to hear that Swedish students, Swedish teachers, Swedish artists, Swedish theaters cannot have events for Palestine or cannot express what they think about what is happening in Palestine. And for me, this is crazy. You have to really protect your right to freedom of expression as Swedish people, because it cannot be accepted that Sweden, the first country who recognized Palestine, the country who taught the whole Middle East equality and gender violence and issues related to freedom of expression, and today they are taking this away from you, not from us, from you. So we need you. We need you to become friends of al-Harah Theatre, and we have cards outside that you can. And now we're depending more on individual, on people support more than governments.
That was Sam Carlshamre interviewing al-Harah theatre troupe at Teater Tribunalen in Stockholm, Sweden, when the theatre troupe was visiting, performing one of their plays. As always, if you'd like to support Kalam Podcast, you can do so by joining our Patreon at patreon.com/Kalam Podcast. For now, peace.